just let me know how cruel and violent human beings are. It's a real awakening.
When you got back home, was it easy to just pick your life back up?
No, it was pretty hard for a while. I guess some of the experiences I've had, I was with the Marine Corps, die right in my hands, and it really affects you for a long time. It takes you a while to get over those experiences. The real heroes in Korea was a couple. One was the copter pilots. When we had casualties or anything, and even at night, we'd call for evacuation of the wounded. And the copters would come at night. I don't know how they knew where they were flying, but as soon as we heard them, we'd flash a flashlight up so they knew where to land. And but they were real heroes.
That's nuts.
The other heroes were really the surgeons we had. If you're familiar with the show that used to be on MASH, well, the only thing different with our MASH was we didn't have female nurses. There was no females in combat zone. But it was the same thing. I was an X-ray technician, and the surgeons there were fantastic. They had orthopedic surgeons, they had plastic surgeons, and they really performed some miracles with repairing people. So those were the real heroes over there, the copter pilots and, of course, the surgeons. They did tremendous stuff.
Did you find that being in the medical part of the war, did you see a lot of people being sent home from casualties, or would they have to stay there and be hospitalized for a while?
Well, we kept them in our hospital for a very short time. Then they sent them by copter out. We had a hospital ship in the harbor of Incheon. And they would stay there, and they would do further surgery. Or they airlift them to Japan, where they recouped. But they had excellent medical care. Yeah, the hospital ship was right in the harbor. And, we could airlift people right from the front lines there to the hospital ship itself.
What was there to keep you busy, like when you weren't fighting? Like what kinds of entertainment? What did you do for fun?
Sleep. Read. We did have, well, I don't recall who exactly it was. We did have a USO show come after the truce was signed, but I can't remember who was in the show. I must have enjoyed it, but.
What are your opinions right now on our involvement in the Middle East and everything we're doing over there?
It's sort of mixed. To protect ourselves, I guess we can't just move out, but you're never going to stop them from fighting, and I don't know how you're ever going to pull away. It's like you got a hold of a tiger by the tail and you can't let go. I don't know. It's a heck of a pressure on the president and his staff, all the people that make up the decisions. I don't know how he stands the strain.
Is there any way that, I don't know if there's, through the veterans associations or anything, do you guys keep in touch with the people who are over fighting now, or do you do anything with them, or is it?
What we do is, I belong to VFW, and we have what we call poppy sale every year. And what we do with the money is we buy television and so forth, radios for the Veterans Hospital. But as far as overseas, as far as I know, we don't do anything for that. We do veterans here, do things for them.
Are you still in touch with anybody that you were with over in Korea?
No, I did stay in touch with some of them. One particular fellow was from Tonawanda. He was part Indian. I think his last name was Toth, and he and I were close for quite a while. But you eventually lose track of these people, and so I don't keep in touch with anybody anymore.
When you were there, did you or anyone you know win any special awards or citations?
Yeah, one of the corpsmen that I went over there with was with a company that was overrun by the North Koreans. And he had some casualties that he didn't want to leave, so he stayed with his casualties, and he was taken prisoner by the North Koreans. They eventually exchanged prisoners, and he come back, and he got the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I believe is the highest award you can get. But he wouldn't leave his wounded, and he stayed with them.
What was like the relationship between like fellow like soldiers and surgeons and Navy people like on the war front? Was it just
We're all unequal.
all, yeah?
Funny, when I first arrived in Korea, some senator, I forget, female senator, not that they had, could be a male senator too, but they passed a regulation that you couldn't go to the front line for, I think, 5 days or something. So when we finally got up to the front lines, the gunny sergeant, who was really in charge of it, there was a young lieutenant there just out of officer school, but the gunny sergeant really ran the company. And he just said, you stay with me for a few days and you'll be all right. And I was. But everybody, in fact, you never saluted anybody.
No.
Because then if there was a sniper around or somebody watching, then they knew who the officers were. So it was, everybody was pretty much in the same soup, and everybody treated each other equally.
That's probably good.
And being part of the Navy, we had our separate quarters once the truce was signed. And they just left us alone. We never had to stand inspection like the rest of the Marines and stuff. And we did, after the truce was signed, we had a first aid station that we treated civilians, and that was rewarding to help some of the local people.
Do you think a lot of civilians got like affected or injured by the war being there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's many children. In fact, I've got some pictures of an orphanage we went to. I don't know if you want to look at these now or whenever I'll leave them. Here's one of our female patients at sick bay. And we visited this is sort of funny, we visited an orphanage. And this was it was in a Catholic school. And these were some of the kids lined up for food. And while we were there, we had Jeeps with radios and stuff in them. And when we went to leave, somebody stole all our radios.
Were they just amused by you guys?
Right?
I said, were they quite amused by you guys being there?
Oh, yeah. This is a local farmer that you might want to, this one here. The people over there, you could hardly tell how old they were, whether he was 40 years old or 80 years old.
Were you scared when you enlisted? Were you afraid to be sent to Korea or?
No,
were you
like I said
prepared?
before, it was sort of like a lark, you know, we were going off to a big adventure, so I wasn't scared till I saw a couple people die in front of me. And then it was just, you were so interested in your job, you just went ahead and did it. And, yeah, the casualties of war are children. I mean, these are all orphans. And there's, I don't know how many were there. There must have been close to 1,000 young children that were, you know, made homeless by the war.
Did you lose anyone in the war who you were really close to?
No, not really.
No.
Did you ever go anywhere else besides Korea? Or was that the only time you ever?
Out of the States, yes. In the United States, I was to a number of locations. But I was stationed in near Paris Island, South Carolina, for about a year or so before I went to Korea.
Were you allowed to tell your family where you're going and stuff? Because I know today there are issues with people who go off after boot camp. They send them to certain places and they're not allowed to communicate. They can communicate with their families, but there's certain times they can't tell them where they are for safety reasons and everything. Were you, was there
might
any
be true.
limitations or?
It might be true when you're overseas or something, but
Yeah.
not in the States. We never had any restrictions. I think one of the biggest things was getting a package from home, you know, cookies and whatever. Because when you got your package, you had to hide it.
How old were you when you enlisted?
20, I think I was 20.
Did you have a significant other when you went into the war?
Tell you what?
Have a significant other when you went into the war?
No,
No.
just my mother.
Just your mother?
She told me what to do. Then we come home and I got married and my wife tells me what to do.
Did your family have any troubles with you enlisting? Did they feel uncomfortable about that, or were they behind you?
No, they were behind me because they knew I was going to get drafted, and although I possibly served a little more time than being drafted, no, they were behind me.
Did you have any other family members that enlisted or were drafted?
No.
No.
How were you greeted when you got home? Like, how did your family and your community respond to you coming home? Or
It was favorable. It wasn't like Vietnam. The Vietnam vets, I guess, were shunned. Korean vets, there was no problems that I was aware of.
Where did you grow up?
Pardon?
Where did you grow up?
Orchard Park.
after
Well, we
being
moved out here when I was 8 years old. We came out from Buffalo. Most of my life has been Orchard Park.
after being in the war, did you ever think about moving anywhere else, or did you just want to stay in Orchard Park?
No, for years we went out to Arizona in the spring, and we had thoughts of moving to Arizona. But my daughter lives here and grandchildren, so until they got ready to move, we'll stay here. I don't mind the change of weather. In fact, the fall, I think, is one of my favorite. And then, as far as weather, the weather in Korea is a lot like it is here. Well, they didn't get the snow over there. Temperatures are about the same.
How was it when you were there? Were there any, like, strenuously hot days? And or very
A
cold?
couple, yes. And I've got a journal that I kept for, I don't know, for about, well, most of the time I was over there. And there was some hot days. And cold, hot, rainy.
Did you ever get sick?
Well, not exactly sick. We had, once the truce was signed, we got a big shipment of Japanese beer. And I went overboard and I woke up and I had some blood in my urine. So they sent me out to the hospital ship. And I guess you'd call that sick. I wasn't really sick. I just drank too much. And, but I spent a couple of days on the hospital ship. Having joined the Navy, that's the only time I spent aboard a ship was... Oh, there's one other time when I got discharged. We were in Southern California, and they put me aboard a hospital ship that was going into dry dock, and they took it up to San Francisco. And that's why I was discharged in Frisco. So, after almost 4 years in the service, I served about 5 days aboard a ship.
Do you recall any major emergencies or anything, like running out of supplies or having too many people to take care of?
Not really. We had everything we needed, and of course, being stationary more or less, it was easy to get supplies. And we had everything we needed and got it in a hurry. And I was an X-ray technician, and when we got casualties, and almost all of them had to be X-rayed, and that was a job keeping, because the solution you use has got to be cooled, and we were using ice cubes and stuff to try to cool the solution down, because you were taking so many X-rays.
Did you take care of just American soldiers, or did you have, like, I know you mentioned the children casualties and stuff. Did you take care of any of the children over there, or
Yes,
any of the
yes.
local
After
people?
the truce was signed, we opened up the sick bay to civilians who needed care. And we treated a lot of civilians. In fact, we had a Korean lad that was an interpreter, and he worked right in sick bay with us, and he, after he'd been there a while, he asked me to come home and have a dinner with him. Well, I did. And after dinner, he says, well, how did you like it? And I said, very good. He said, do you know what you ate? I said, no. And they had butchered a dog for dinner. And, I didn't feel too well after that. But it was in a stew, and it tasted pretty good.
Do you find now, do you have any qualms about Koreans after the war, or did you really not have any conflict?
No. The only problem with wars, of course, are the fact that the people that really get involved, get killed, are a bunch of innocent people, mostly. What they should do is have the governments represent the senators go to war, and we stay home and let them fight. It doesn't work that way. They send us to a slaughter.
Did you have any personal problems with the president after that because of going to war, or were you still supporting the government?
Not really. They make a big thing about what the president can or cannot do and so forth, and he's just one person. Mm-hmm. And there's senators and representatives. I mean, he can't take all the blame or all the honor. The government's run by more than one person. And, I guess somebody told me one time that if you had a benevolent dictator, that would be the best form, because he'd treat the people right. And but democracy, you got to put up with what you get, and sometimes it's not very good.
Now, with after coming back from Korea, what kind of values or new perspectives did you bring back with you? Other than finding out that humanity's cruel.
Well, I value life more. Learn to live life as full as you can each day. I've been fortunate. I'm 70. I will be 75 next month, and I've had a pretty full life, and I've enjoyed a lot of it, most of it.
Did you find being in war gave you courage to do, like, more advantageous things or something like?
I think so. Yeah.
Like, when you came back, did you have courage to go skydiving or not necessarily that, but I mean like stuff like that? Like, did it give you courage to do things you normally wouldn't do before you left?
Got married. That took a lot of courage. Actually, it did. No, I love my wife and all, but the day we got married, she says, and I had a white coat on. She said, "Your face looked as white as your coat." I think the biggest experience that came out of it is enjoy life more and more appreciative of human beings. We've had some atrocities committed, even just like ourselves, when we dropped bombs, atomic bombs, 2 of them, in fact, on innocent people in Japan that maimed and killed millions. It's just atrocious. But that's what the good Lord saddled with us with when he kicked us out of the Garden of Eden. He really screwed us up.
Did you continue to practice medicine and doing X-ray technician stuff when you got back to the States?
No, like I said earlier, what I wanted to do was go to veterinarian school. That's why I was taking pre-med, and that just didn't work out. So I went to Canisius and took a business course. So I have been able to help people with my first aid knowledge, being a volunteer fireman, and that's rewarding.
Are you still involved with the fire volunteering?
I was
firemen
up
and
until a
stuff?
couple of years ago, and now I'm what they call an exempt member.
Mhm.
And I'm still involved with the fire company. We still raise money for people that are in need, that maybe had a loss because of a fire and so forth. We try to help them out. So that's rewarding. And made a lot of good friends in the fire service.
That's nice.
It's time to wrap it up. Do you have any final words, Mr. Walsh?
No, enjoy life.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.